Where's this bloody pizza? It's supposed to be here by now. Ready, steady.
Hello and welcome to In the Court of the Wenton King.
Welcome.
Welcome. What are we doing?
We're doing more Bill Bruford.
Bill Bruford.
Yeah, Earthworks.
Earthworks, yeah. So, yeah, last week, yeah, I know. I'm getting sort of weird 90s here. I don't know if it's because the screens, I can't see the screen properly, but
That's because TFI Friday was on today. It's probably on now, actually.
Yeah, to do that. Yeah, I'm in suede. Right, yeah, so last week we did the Bruford Band, the best album from the Bruford Band, which is one of a kind. The period after that, of course, was King Crimson. I believe, I can't quite remember clearly, but I believe there was some controversy about Bill felt that the record company deliberately left him in the lurch and the tour had to be cancelled and the money had stopped, or that wasn't making money or something, deliberately to get him back in King Crimson. I believe the suggestion there, maybe. But yeah, obviously 80s King Crimson was utterly fantastic. But one of the big things about it, of course, which makes Bill Bruford 1979 so different from Bill Bruford, so different to Bill Bruford 1980, is of course the electronic drums, because it's the 80s. And so obviously during that band he experimented with it. You can have little arpeggios, much like what Carl Palmer did in the 70s, only sounding much more tinny in 80s type stuff. And obviously things like Waiting Man and all those great tracks from that King Crimson really used that really well, and it was a new sound, and but of course the 80s sucks. But the thing Bill Bruford always espoused, his big thing was, he's a jazz drummer. He came from the world of jazz. He watched Jazz 65 as a kid. When he joined Yes, as far as he's concerned, it was going to be jazz. It turned into a rock band. But really, it was because, late 60s, jazz was no longer the vanguard. It was rock. Rock was the thing. 60s and 70s, obviously, are the time of rock. And in the 80s, of course, rock was no longer the thing. It had finished. Is that an oversimplification? Yes. As far as Bill was concerned, it was time to go back to jazz. And I think he felt it had developed enough for him to apply it to jazz now, because obviously jazz being better. He says that, but it does sound like they weren't exactly reliable and working. And apparently he got a free drum kit from the company, but it meant he had to go to these shows and just demonstrate it, which apparently was a nightmare because it didn't work. But for whatever reason, he decided it was a good idea to form a proper jazz band. This is not rock, this is jazz. However, it is in the 80s, and as such, it is different. It is a horror when you first put it on. You first put it on and you think, my gums are... tear them out from the treble, But actually, underneath that, there is some brilliant music in it. Actually, the sound of it, if you know Jazz from Hell by Zappa, it's that very, very similar synclavier sound to it, which is interesting. One of the reasons he went back to jazz, of course, is because in rock a lot of time and money is wasted. Chris Squire in the bath taking up all the hot water and spending all the money on drugs, and Robert Fripp organising a band rehearsal where he just sits and stares at the floor for hours and hours and hours and no one has any ideas. That doesn't happen in jazz. The money isn't there to do that. You can't do that, and jazz musicians aren't like that. They don't really like to rehearse because it's all about the playing, man. So obviously that's appealing. That's why he went to jazz, really. He's kind of doing a Miles Davis, and I think this band, Earthworks, in that he's getting these fantastic musicians in and sort of putting them in a room and saying, right, go, and seeing what comes out, which is fantastic. You've got Django Bates, the horns and keyboard player, who, even if you haven't heard him play a note, he went to the Royal College of Music. Two weeks after he started, he saw a sign on a piano saying, not for the playing of jazz music. And he left. So he wins automatically by doing that, because he's correct. Obviously, jazz is correct. We've got Ian Bellamy on saxophone. Fantastic sax player. I would have liked to have heard him not in the 80s. That would have been nice. But yeah, this is not rock. Bruford, the band, but that was rock. It was proggy. You can listen to the notes and realise, oh yeah, that's proggy. But actually, you put this on, people will say that was jazz. They wouldn't say it was rock at all. But compositionally, it's Bruford tunes.
This has no redeeming features.
It's from the 80s.
That's all I'm going to say about that. I did not get on with this at all.
Is it the sound?
It's everything. Jazz fusion, yeah. I thought it'd be slightly rocky.
Well, this isn't fusion at all. There's no fusion.
It's not.
Yeah.
Don't
Bruford is fusion.
Don't think This is fusion because it's not. It's just jazz.
It's synth jazz.
Yeah, and synth jazz in particular.
Doesn't sound very appealing.
I don't like it. And you know, Bruford is obviously a wonderful drummer. It just sounds so. Everything about it sounds electronic. It's sort of even the drumming, which is normally exciting, and you sort of, well, how's he recorded the drums on this? He's a drummer leading the band. It just sounds. The first track, I just thought that's a drum machine.
Yeah, it sounds like a drum machine. It's him playing live, and it sounds like a drum machine. Yeah, and that's people's complaints about this, is that his best sound. He got the sound of his drumming, whether you preferred whatever you preferred, but the sound of his drumming got better and better and better and better through the 70s. 79, the sound of his drumming was so amazing, you know. But his famous rim shots, which he did to be heard while Chris Squire was going bang 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 bang, makes such a great sound. Of course, you play rim shots on an electronic drum, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you hit it. It's still going to go
on off.
Yeah, but he's moving forward. He's not just doing the same thing. And all these people, they all did this because it was the new technology, and they embraced new technology in the 70s, and it was great. And they embraced new technology in the 80s, and it was great until the 31st of December 1989, and then it was awful forevermore. Unfortunately, there you go.
I haven't got a lot to say about this album.
It's just horrible sound.
Yeah.
See,
I mean, you kind of like jazz anyway.
I'm more of a jazz person, but
I'm very selective with jazz.
The best songs I've heard with an acoustic jazz band. It sounds better with an acoustic jazz band, so I know the songs already from that, and then I hear them here. Yeah. So consequently, I can appreciate it more easily.
Let's do some tracks.
Yeah. Yeah. So track 1,
Thud.
Very similar role to Hell's Bells. It kind of maybe intended as a single in the same way, and it introduces you to the horrible sound straight away. But of course, 80s horrible sound has aged much worse than 70s horrible sound. But it is exactly the same thing in that straight away it sounds like that, and that's either a good thing or a bad thing. And it has a catchy tune and some very simple rhythm.
I think it sounded like, oh no, is this going to be what the whole album sounds like?
Yes.
Yes. So it does introduce the album.
But I think Hell's Bells does the same thing.
Yeah.
And you could be put off by that for Hell's Bells, and if you heard, Fainting in Coils first, that would be a better idea.
Yeah.
And it's the same with this.
Yeah, good acid test. If you can get on with Thud, you'll probably like the album.
Yeah, but probably don't start with that, actually, I think. Track 2.
Making a Song and Dance.
This is a vehicle for the saxophone, and very welcome it is too, because it's a saxophone. It's a real instrument. It sounds great.
Track 3.
Up to north. This is a ballad, a proper ballad, a Bruford ballad. So it is a proper jazz ballad. I bought some awful Yes and Friends, one of those compilations. I don't think it was that one, maybe another one. And it had one Bruford track on it. It was loads of Wakeman and whatever. And I think Steve Howe playing the whole of Topographic Oceans in 20 minutes on acoustic guitar. And this, Up North, was the one Bruford track, and I couldn't believe it when it came on. That's Bill Bruford's track. What? But it does catch up on you. It's a really nice melody, and I find myself whistling it. So it is good.
It was at this point I gave up on the album. Nothing more to add. Track 4.
Pressure. This is an extended piece. This is over 7 minutes. The horrible 80s-ness is there, but only for part of the track. So in the sort of ace heavy proggy bit, it sounds very, very 80s, but then it goes down and it goes into a quiet bit, which sounds like jazz. And then the drums start get going, and it actually, that section sounds like proper 50s beboppy type jazz. And there's much less synthy. There are synths on there, but in the context of that, much less synthy. That middle section is just wonderful, and you're hearing Bill possibly doing something we haven't heard him do before, which is sort of imitate 50s jazz, playing much lighter, which is really good. So I like that.
Yeah. 5. My Heart Declares a Holiday.
Heart Declares a Holiday. I think this is the second best track on the album. Played by a proper jazz band, fantastic. Not that this isn't a proper jazz band, but without 80s-ness, really good. Maybe a distant relative of Your Waiting Man and things like that. So
6. Emotional Shirt.
Emotional Shirt. He's not very good at titling his song. Obviously, it's instrumental, so it's meaningless. But some of the titles are really great. I think sometimes they work. I mean, I like The Stone Woman Dances and whatever it is. That's a really good title. But sometimes they're great, and I don't think Emotional Shirt is a good title. But this is actually some crazy heavy stuff, and there's some proper avant-garde stuff going on in the middle. So, yeah.
Interesting. 7, It Needn't End In Tears.
Ballad. Another Bruford ballad. It's alright.
8, The Shepherd Is Eternal.
This is a little bridging piece. It's just less than 2 minutes. It's interesting to have that on a jazz album, and he's trying to direct them at the jazz audience, and it is just some sound effects and build up ready for the next track, which you need. So rock people would be okay with that. It would have been interesting to see how the jazzers would have responded to that. I know it took a few years for this to get picked up in the jazz world. Apparently it did after about 5 years or so. But it took them a while, and tellingly this sold very well, and the second one didn't sell so well at all. So what happened, of course, was that all the rock people bought this, expecting rock, didn't particularly like it. But then the jazzos picked up after time. It got talked about, which follows, of course, on to
9, Bridge of Inhibition.
Yes, Bridge of Inhibition. This is fantastic. This might be my favourite Bill Bruford solo track. It's so much better live than it would be. And then you've got the harmonic minor and all that. To hear a band playing it is awesome. So if you can get this lineup playing it, or you can get even better Earthworks Mark II playing it, fantastic. Obviously on the album tinny synthy, because it sounds so synthetic, the effect of it is blunted a bit. But it is still awesome. And of course, some of the notes are actually played on the drums. So he's on one of the drums. He's got the which is great.
1 egg.
1 egg. Goodness me! Oh my god. 4 eggs for me.
Okay. What it is, I'm going to just sort of say something a little bit about jazz. Jazz, especially sort of improv jazz, at its centre is there's a sort of language that the musicians in the improv band kind of understand. There's a sort of an unspoken thing that's happening throughout the band that is really quite impressive. It's a fundamental understanding of music. Unfortunately, if you don't understand that language, I think you lose great swathes of the music.
It just sounds like jazz.
Yeah.
Right, I've got it, yeah.
And that's my major issue with this. I don't understand jazz.
Yeah, so if you don't like jazz, you won't like it.
No.
Whereas with Bruford, it's jazzy, but it is also rock.
Yeah.
So that's a different thing.
Yeah.
You know. As I said last week, with Bruford it goes, it's a 9. You don't do that with this. So it is a different thing. Yeah. So, see you next week for Earthworks Mark II review. Our pizza is ready. See you soon.